Okay, Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Thank you for accommodating the earlier start time. Let's begin. Gemara Rosh Hashana, Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Bet, 31b. There's a Mishnah. Hopefully, we'll get from the Mishnah to the end of the Gemara. Hopefully, I have to end a bit earlier, but we'll try to do it. So let's begin. There's a Mishnah on Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Bet. I'll share the screen. This Mishnah is going to continue talking about the Takanot of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. So before we get started, I'm going to share the screen, and I just want to see if anyone can help me remember what are the Takanot of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai that we've done so far. Okay, so this is the list. Does anyone remember? We don't have to spell it out shorthand.
Lulav.
Okay. So someone said lulav all 7 days outside of Beit HaMikdash, but that's not the first one. Okay, so now Kemech Yashan. Okay, so so Chadash is prohibited on the entire 16th day of Nisan. Yom Hanef Kulo, it becomes permitted on the 17th, but that's also not the first one. What was the first one? Correct. Okay, so after Beit HaMikdash, blowing shofar in Yavne or anywhere that there is a Beit Din. So that's a machloket. Okay, we'll review this later. What else is there? Fourth one? Anyone remember? Here. Okay, so we'll get started here. I saw a nice summary. Oh, it's down here. Hazivlach? No, well, Hazivlach is something else. That's not that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. This is a good summary. There's one more that we're missing. What was the last one? Or did we not do it yet? No. We're about to do the next one. No, there was one more. Oh, yeah.
He said the Leviim could bring the witnesses could bring testimony till.
Correct. So it was for Rosh Hashana, according to some, for others for Old Rosh Chodesh. What we said is we do not accept witnesses for the new moon after the time of Mincha. But Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai re-allowed it. So he re-allowed witnesses to testify for the new moon after the mincha time, mincha time, right? Okay, very good. I believe there's one more, which we're about to do right now. Okay, here we go. Amar Rabbi Yoshua. So this is going to be on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Bet. If you're looking at the art scroll, what is that? 31b1 Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says, "Ve'od zot hitkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai." There's one more takana that he made. She'afilu rosh beit din b'chol makom. Even if the rosh beit din, which means the nasi, the president of the court, is traveling and he is not in the place of the court, shelo yehu ha'edim holchin ela lemakom hava'ad. Witnesses for the new moon have to go to the place where the court is sitting. So what does this mean? You recall we said this in the past, that what would be the process? Two witnesses come, and then this nasi of the Sanhedrin, the president of the Supreme Court, has to proclaim something. What does he say when witnesses come and tell him that they saw the new moon? What does he say? Mekudash. He says the new moon is now sanctified. He says Mekudash, and everyone responds Mekudash. Okay, so he says Mekudash. Whose job is that? It's the Nasi's job, the president. Andy, you could grab one of those, or if you want to grab this, there's okay. So now the question is as follows: what happens if the Nasi is traveling? Do you have to go to where the Nasi is, or do you have to go to where the Sanhedrin is? You get the question? Where do people go to testify that they saw the new moon? Where did they go? Do they go to where the Sanhedrin, the Nasi of the Sanhedrin is, the president, or do they have to go to where the Sanhedrin is? The Beit Din, right? So here's what the Mishnah tells us, is that Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana. She'afilu rosh bedin b'chol makom, even if the head of the court, meaning the nasi, is somewhere else, shelo yehu ha'edim holchin ela lemakom havad. The witnesses should go to the place of the Sanhedrin. So, for example, when the Sanhedrin was in Yavne, who was the nasi of the Sanhedrin when it was in Yavne? Who was it? Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Let's say he was traveling. Let's say he had to have a meeting somewhere else and he wasn't there for Rosh Chodesh. Where do you go? You go to Yavne. It doesn't matter that he's not there. That was his takana. Okay, so you have to ask, well, why? So one of the answers that I read was because after the times of the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, there was a lot of politics, there was a lot of meetings, he had to go to different places to meet with different people, different times. It was very uncertain. Today you have to go somewhere, he would go. It used to be when you were sitting in Yerushalayim, where would the Nasi be? The Nasi of the Sanhedrin would be in Yerushalayim all day, every day. There was nowhere for him to, you wouldn't have to do other things. But once the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, there was other issues. There was trying to make different alliances, trying to make different treaties, different plans, trying to make sure that we're taken care of, politics. So he made a takanah that said, you can't chase me around town, go to the Nasi, go to where the Yavne is. Okay, so let's write this for number 5. What is number 5? I actually think we're missing one, but we'll just write it now. That for testimony of the new moon, go to the place of Sanhedrin. You don't have to follow the president. Good? Does it make sense? Let's see. 1 second. Is there a comment here? Number 7. Look at, I'm going to look at footnote number 7 in the art scroll. The pronouncement of Rosh Chodesh was ordinarily done by the head of the Beit Din. As done in the Mishnah, the head of the Beit Din says, Mekudash, it's sanctified. And all of the people respond after, Mekudash, Mekudash. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai ordained that if the head of the Beit Din was away from the headquarters of the Beit Din, the witnesses would not have to travel after him to offer their testimony. Rather, they should come to the Beit Din headquarters, and the Beit Din shall pronounce Rosh Chodesh without the head. If the head was nearby, the Beit Din would send for him so that he can make the pronouncement. The Gemara is going to explain a little bit further why. But that's the main thing. Okay, so far so good. That was a takanah of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. We're just going through a list. He made 9 takanot. We just added that to the list. The Gemara tells us a story, and we had a different thing that happened in this story. Hayi itita, there was a woman. Itita in Aramaic means isha, woman. Hayi itita, there was a woman. The azmenuha ladina, she was summoned to court. Kamed Amemar ben Harda'a. In front of the court of Amemar, he was the leading rabbi of the time. He was the head of the Sanhedrin, of his court. There was a court case. There was a summons. Do you ever get a summons to a court case? Okay, I don't know. What'd you do? No kidding. You have some sort of summons. There was a woman that was summoned to court. Why? Because she owed somebody money. She gave someone money, and then after a while, she never gave it back. So now the court is summoning her to court. So when Amemar, his court is in Harda'a. That's the city that he's in. Amemar was traveling. Azal Amemar lemechuza or lemechuza. So he traveled. Okay. So here you have that situation. His court is where it is, but he's traveling to somewhere else. Velo azla batre. She didn't follow him. She said, if he's not in town, I'm not going. She got the summons. She refused to go. Now, in halakha, if you get a summons from Beit Din and you refuse to go, they could then write a document about you that say you are in contempt of the court, right? We don't have lawyers here. We have Justin on the thing. If you're getting summoned to court and you don't go, then there's a letter that's it's called a pitka. We're going to see a peticha. It's a letter that says this person is excommunicated until the person shows up to court. Okay? So she said, Amemar is in Mechuza. Your court is normally here. You're over there. I'm not coming. I'm not following you. So what happened? Katav peticha ilava. So he wrote a letter of saying that she had refused to come to court. She refused to come see me. So Amarle Rav Asher Amemar. So Rav Ashi tells him, but look at our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah over here tell us? Afilu Rosh Beidin b'chol makom. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana that if the Sanhedrin's president goes somewhere else, you go to the court. You don't have to follow the leader of the court around town or around the country. So you, Amemar, you move. She didn't follow you, but she doesn't have to follow you. That was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's takana, wasn't it? So what does Amimar respond? Amarle. So Amimar responds to Rav Asher. That has to do with testimony of the new moon. Why? Because we don't want to give people who are coming to testify about the new moon, we don't want to give them a hard time. They have to go chase him around. They're going to come to court. They're going to see he's not there. You know what's going to happen? What will happen is, in the future, they're not going to show up. If one time they saw the moon, they come to the court, they see you're not there, they say, oh, you have to go to Tel Aviv. So we go to Tel Aviv. He comes to Tel Aviv. So no, actually, he already went to Beersheba. I'm never going again. Done. Finished. I'm not going to go to testify again. And remember, it was so important for us to encourage the witnesses to come. You remember what we said about people who are breaking Shabbat? We said, come, don't worry, come. And don't stop them. If along the way you see people coming and there was 40 pairs of people coming, don't stop them. Tell them to keep coming. Why? Because we need them next time. Who knows? Next time they might be the witnesses. So we always want to give, never want to discourage witnesses to come and testify about the new moon. So for them, we're going to make it easy. Just go to the court, even though Rabban Yochanan Zakkai himself or the Nasi is not there. However, but here, when it comes to a monetary case, Eved loveh leish malveh. It's a pasuk from Mishlei that says Eved loveh, a borrower, is a servant leish malveh, to the lender. When someone borrows money from someone, he has to follow his terms. If I ask you for $1,000 and then tomorrow you say you have to pay it back, and I say, no, we said this, we said that. We say, I'm taking you to court. I say, you come to my court. No. The guy lent you money. Eved loveh leish malveh. You, the one who's borrowing money, you have to follow the terms of the lender. You're saying you don't want to pay, you want to go to court, fine, but go to his court. So this is what Amimar said. This case of this woman was someone who there was a claim against her financially. She comes to where the court is. I know all the details. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to sneak into some local court somewhere. I'm not there. I know all of the details. I want to be able to ask her questions. I want to be able to interrogate. If she's not coming, I'm going to put her into contempt of the court. So now you see there's a difference between Rabban Yochanan Zakkai's Takanot, which was about the new moon, and regular financial cases. In regular financial cases, if there's a summons for someone to come to a specific area to follow a specific person, they have to. They can't say, I'm going to go to local court. By the way, this is an extremely complicated topic. The idea of getting summoning to court. There's a whole chelek of Shulchan Aruch called Choshen Mishpat. Very complicated. All of Masechet Sanhedrin, all of these very topics of courts and judges. Nowadays, we don't always work through Beit Din. We work through some sort of like a mediation type of mechanism. We try not to do these things, but it'll happen. There is something called a Ktav Seruv. If the Beit Din sends a summons to someone and they don't make a phone call, they don't make a good faith effort to explain, no, I had something going on. Okay, they'll work with them. They'll give him one shot. They'll give him 2 strikes. They'll give him time. But as long as you're trying to come, and even though they know they're playing games, the court tries to work with someone. Okay, you can't come this one, come that. It's like jury duty. If someone can't come the first time, okay, come a couple months later. You can't come then, okay, couple months. You have a good excuse, fine. But if someone refuses to come and says, I'm not coming, you write a Ktav Seruv, you write a letter, it says this person is in contempt of the court, they're not listening to what they say. Don't give him an aliyah in the Torah, don't do this, don't give him any respects, don't do business with him, don't do that, or whatever, etc., depending on the details, until he comes and shows up. Once he shows up, then we remove our a letter of him. Okay, so this is something important to know. But Rabban Yochanan Zakkai allowed people to go to the court and not follow the head of the court, but for the testimony of the new moon only. Okay?
Sorry, Rabbi.
Yes.
If the Nasi left, does the status of the Sanhedrin, or his court where he usually practices, does the status change from Supreme Court to local court?
No, the status doesn't change, but the job of declaring the new moon belongs to the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. Specifically, the Nasi is responsible for saying Mekudash. That's the job of the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. So what we're seeing now is what Rabban Yochanan Zakkai said is that he gave that responsibility away from him to his court. Now his court is still there even if he's not there. Which it sounds like that's really how it should be. But Rabban Gamliel that we learned about, or Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, or Hillel HaZaken, or Hillel HaShani, they were all the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. They were the experts in all of these calculations. So it would be the responsibility of the Nasi to declare the new moon. And he said that you don't need to come to the Nasi anymore. So it's not, to answer your question, it's still the Sanhedrin, but the responsibility of declaring the new moon doesn't belong to the Sanhedrin, it belongs to the Nasi. Okay, let's keep going. Next, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Where's Mr. Drapshi? Okay, Mr. Drapshi is going to teach us something tonight. Ein kohanim rasha'in la'alot b'sandilehen adukhan. Kohanim, Mr. Azizi, we asked you this 2 weeks ago. Why is it? Okay, now I'm going to put you on the spot. Why is it that when you do kohanim, you take your shoes off? Do you know? If you don't worry. In 10 seconds, you'll know. Okay, no problem. So let me give you a memory of mine. My dad probably doesn't remember this. When I was a little kid, I must have been, I don't know how old, maybe 5 years old. And I see all of these kohanim take their shoes off. And you see a bunch of socks. Like I remember one guy's socks was ripped. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, why are they taking their shoes off? And he said, we're going to go ask one of the kohanim. And I remember, I guess I was with my dad going to the bathroom of Shari Tova. Coming out of the bathroom of Shari Tova, going into the bathroom was a kohen. I don't know who it was. But I remember my dad saying, he has a question for you. Why do you take your shoes off when you do kohanim? And I remember him saying, he says, you know why? Because with these shoes, I'm about to go into the bathroom. It's very dirty in there. When you go up to the duchan, you go up to the echal, you have to be clean. My shoes are very dirty. I'm going into the bathroom right now. So when I go up to the echal, I have to be clean. This is what I remember. It's a memory etched in my brain. I don't know how old I was. Maybe 5 years old, something like that, 6 years old, something like that. The problem is, the person, whoever he was, I don't know who it was, didn't learn Gemara Masechet Sotah Daf Mem, and didn't learn this takana of Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai, because that's not the reason. It doesn't have to do with being clean or going to the bathroom. I don't know who it was. He was a Kohen, Ish Sadiq, but maybe he just missed this page. Let's see what the Gemara tells us, or what we're going to see what the Gemara tells us, and then I'll quote to you the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, Ein kohanim rasha'in la'alot b'sanhedrin duchan. Kohanim are not allowed to go up to the duchan with their shoes on. Sandilehon is their sandals, their shoes. V'zo echad mitesha takanot she'itkin Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. And this is one of the 9 takanot that Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai established. So Jared, where is this Gemara? Sota Mem Amud Aleph. Okay, what? There's 9. Yeah. We're gonna get to it right now. So Sota. Well, we're working on it. We're not done with our list yet. Mem Amud Aleph. Here we go. Where is it, Jared? Tell me where it is. What is it? How about this? Okay. Rabbanan Amri Me'achad. Ein kohanim rasha'in la'alot b'sandilehon laduchan. Kohanim are not allowed to go up to the duchan with their shoes on. V'zehu achat miteshet takanot she'itkin Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. This is one of the 9 takanot that Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai, our character, who you should be very intimately close with by now. He made 9 takanot. This is one of them. My ta'ama. So the Gemara says, why? Lav mishum kavod tzibur is not for the respect of the congregation, as it would be disrespectful. Read what they say. It would be disrespectful for the priests to display their dirty sandals in front of the congregation. So this is a question. The Gemara says, maybe out of respect for the people, you're going to come up, standing in front of the people, giving them a bracha, take your shoes off. Just like a gentleman in my brain from when I was 5 years old said, it's like out of respect for it to be clean. No, the Amar Ravashi, no, that's not why. Hatam shema nifseka lo retzua b'sandalo. Maybe there's one of his straps of his sandals broke or like untied. V'hadar azayel lemiktereh. So he's gonna sit down or go down to fix it. V'amri, and then people are gonna say, did you see that Kohen? He snuck out the back. We're all going up there. Everyone puts a talit on their hands. They go like this so they can't see. All of a sudden, you see him going out of the emergency exit. He sat down, something like that. The Amri ben Gerusha or ben Chalutzahu. And they would say, oh, he's not a real Kohen. His mom must have been a Gerusha, divorcee, someone who was divorced. And a Kohen marries a woman who was previously divorced and they have a child. The child is not a Kohen. So see what the Gemara says. The Gemara says what would happen is, if he has his shoes on, he's going to go up there. And then he's going to notice my shoelace is untied. He's going to bend over, or he's going to sit down, or he's going to leave to go tie his shoelace. And as he's doing that, people is going to see, and then the rumors are going to spread. They're going to say, did you hear about Mr. Cohen? Did you see what happened? He left. Oh, no, he's not a Kohen. Oh, and now his cousins aren't a Kohen. His brothers aren't Kohen. His great-grandkid, no one is a Kohen. I mean, I'll tell you something. If the guy in the bathroom from when I was 5 years old would have told me this answer, I would have said he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. I would have said it's probably because the shoes are dirty, right? So I understand why he said that. But this is the reason of the Takanot. So there's a bunch of questions as to why Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai would need to have to make this Takana after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Is this related to the Beit HaMikdash at all? Maybe it's not. Maybe he just saw it was a problem, so he just added this Takana. It could be that it was related. Why? Because when they were doing the stuff, the work of the Takana, of the Beit HaMikdash, you wouldn't be so worried if someone is a Kohen or not. You see a Kohen in Kanisa, in the Beit Knesset, you see him bend over to tie his shoe, and you say, maybe that person is not a Kohen. Let's find out. Let's see. Oh, he did service in the Beit HaMikdash last week. Oh, he did service in the Beit. Oh, he's going to do service in the Beit HaMikdash. Oh, he was on the picture. Look, there's a picture of him in the Beit HaMikdash. So maybe his shoe is just untied. You'll give him the benefit of the doubt because there's a way to verify it, and that is because there's a Beit HaMikdash around. But when there's no Beit HaMikdash around, the only way to know someone is a Kohen is from when he's doing Birkat Kohanim. And if he now has some sort of a distraction and he leaves to tie his shoe for whatever, people might start rumors. Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai said, since we have no other way of verifying Kohanim other than this, it must be that they had like very poor quality shoes. The shoelaces were like getting untied all the time. Like things were just like popping open all the time. It must be something like that. But it seems odd, but this is the reason. This is the reason. If you want to do a trivia, to ask people the question, and then they're going to say something that's going to be wrong, this is it. This is like a perfect type of trivia that you would put like for a kid or someone. You get it wrong, they're going to say, no, you're wrong. And then you pull out Gemara Masechet Sotah and you show them, it's right here. This is the Takana. So there's a lot of discussion, but let's keep moving. This is number 6. Okay, let's add it. What should we write here? Kohanim, remove shoes when blessing the people. Yeah. Okay, so now we did.
Rabbi, I'm a little confused. Maybe I missed it. When our concern is that when a Kohen reaches for his shoes, why do we assume that he might not actually be a Kohen? I missed the reason why they might think that at the time.
Good question. Why would we assume that a Kohen who's reaching for his shoes is not a real Kohen? The answer is because think about the positioning. Let's say I'm in like row 80 or something, and I see there's 3 Kohanim that go up there, and all of a sudden I peek up and I see there's only 2 left. I don't know where that first one went. It happens to be he just sat down to tie his shoe, but I can't see him. What I think is, when he went to tie his shoe, I think that he's coming up with some excuse. This can happen sometimes. It probably happens like in sports, no? Basketball, the guy wants to be in a certain position. He wants to be like inconspicuous. He wants to stay on this side of the court while everyone was there. So he'll go and he'll pretend to tie his shoelace and boom, he'll steal the ball. Like that. Maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he doesn't want me to know that he's not really a Kohen, but he doesn't want to make the bracha. So he's going to go up there and then pretend to be tying his shoes. And so the answer of your question is that there's no direct correlation between your shoes and your status as a Kohen. There's no direct correlation. It's the perception. If people are bending over to tie their shoes innocently, someone might assume that they're not really a Kohen and they're trying to dodge the whole Kohanim experience without people realizing. Very odd. Very odd. This was the Takana. It seems like this is something that usually when something like this happens, it might have happened. It might have happened that after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, there was no more service of the Beit HaMikdash. The status of Kohanim couldn't be verified very easily anymore. Could be everyone got up and said, I'm a Kohen, and there was no way to verify it. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to keep it very authentic, and they wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be misunderstandings. So this is the Takana he came up with.
Good question.
Yeah.
Kohen's not touch their feet after they wash their hands.
So there's
they were able to stop in between that.
Right.
and do it.
Okay, so you're asking a good question. You're saying, practically speaking, Mr. Azizi is saying, he's like, okay, now I'm glad all of you non-Kohanim here are sitting and telling me what's going to happen. But let me tell you what will actually happen. If I had my shoes on and I was up there and I would see that my shoelace is untied, I would say, I can't touch my shoes right now. I'm in the middle of giving a bracha. My hands have to stay clean. So I'll give the bracha, and then when I'm done, I'll tie my shoes, right? That's what you would do. So it's nice that we're coming up with this whole idea, but practically speaking, I wouldn't do it. It seems like that's not the case. It seems like some Kohanim would do it anyway. Now, how? Maybe they would wipe their hands. Maybe Kohanim wouldn't necessarily wash their hands every time. Here we're in a situation where you have plumbing, you're able to wash your hands every time. Imagine you have a minyan outdoors, somewhere in the field. Maybe you couldn't wash your hands every single time. So in the morning, someone does Natiyat Yadayim, the Kohanim make sure their hands are clean. This is halacha, by the way. Let's say you're in a position that you know your hands are clean. You did Natiyat Yadayim in the morning and you came straight to Bet Knesset, your hands are clean. And you're in a position where there's no water. Do you do Birkat Kohanim? The answer is yes. If your hands are clean, you do Birkat Kohanim.
You rely on the first.
You rely on the hand washing of the morning. Unless like you went to the bathroom and your hands are dirty and you didn't wash your hands. You can't, of course. You're dirty. You can't even pray in a situation like that. But assuming you look at your hands are clean, there's no source of water, you make the bracha, you do it. So it seems like that's what they would do. And if someone ties their shoe, the truth is, maybe I could tie my shoe without getting my hands like actually dirty. Yeah, it's bacteria, but there won't be any dirt. I'll just go like this. That's it. My hands will be clean. Again, when you're talking about a world that has running water, you wash your hands. But if you're in a world without running water, maybe he would just scrub it on the wall and that's it. His hands are clean. That was their hygiene. So it seems like it's something that maybe a Kohen would say, I might trip. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it's a Kohen that has OCD. He sees his thing untied. There's no way he's waiting until V'yasem lecha shalom. No way. He's tying it right now. I don't know. Yeah. Question?
Are there any other answers? That's the answer.
You ready to get out, Jared? Are there any other answers? No.
No,
Jared's confused. Because Jared learned Sotah 18 times. Yeah, how many times did you learn? Okay, just once. Okay, fine. Actually, it's starting Daf Yomi coming up soon. You guys want to do it with me? We're doing Sechet Sotah, 49 pages. And we're going to get to top 40 and we could skip this part. We already know it. So it's 49 minus 1. It'll be easy. 48. It's not a big deal. Okay, so it's coming up in Daf Yomi soon. Sechet Sotah. So this is the answer of the Gemara. I don't know. I have to delve into it more. Ask the Nativ guys. I told you last time I was talking to someone from Nativ. I said, "What'd you learn?" He said, "I learned Masechet Sotah 7 times." 7 times. When? He said, "Yeah, this past month, Kait's month." I said, "What are you talking about?" So this is what they do there. They do it. How many? What did you learn? You learned Masot. You did Ta'anit 5 times. Jared, you did Ta'anit 5 times. Yeah, there's 5 Ta'aniot in a year, so 6 Ta'aniot. But yeah, exactly. You just do it over and over. It's great. I love it. Okay, let's go. Yalla, we have to get going. Any other questions? Okay. Hey, how are you? Okay, let's share screen and keep going. So here we go. We did 6 so far. You're joining the shiur. Come, please. Is there any extra Gemaras? If you could look along with someone else. So we have 6 Takanot of Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. So far, they're on the screen. Now, let's see what the Gemara says. Tells us there are 7. This is one of the 9 Takanot of Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai and his court put together. My Tama. Sorry. Oh, what am I doing? This is a Sotah here. Sheet, the high pirka. What is sheet? 6. Very good. It's in Aramaic, the taf and the shin. When you have a taf, very often you could change that for a shin, and it would make sense. So the first word that I said, what was the first word of the Gemara? How do you say a woman? Itata, which is the same as isha. The same word. The taf is becoming a shin, and there's like a double there. It's isha. You have sheet is the same as the word shesh. Shesh, the high pirka of our parak. 6 of the edicts are from our chapter. Those are the 6 that are on the screen that we put together. Okay, I think I'm going to mute you. Okay, then the next, v'chada de pirka kama, and one of them was from the prior parak. So the prior parak, this is something we had already learned on Daf Chaf Aleph. We don't have to go through it again, but I'll just remind you what it was there. What we said then was that there are 2 months out of the year that the witnesses should break Shabbat to travel to the court to testify about that they saw the new moon. So if on a Friday night they saw a new moon, get on a donkey, do whatever you have to do to travel, take food with you if you have to. What the Gemara said was as follows. And you know what? We could pull, you know what? We should do it. We should pull it up. Let me what daf is it? I'm pretty sure it's 21b. Okay. Oh, there are 2 months out of the year that the witnesses, if they see the new moon on a Friday night, they should travel on Shabbat, get in a car for all intents and purposes, and go to the Supreme Court in Jerusalem to testify you saw the new moon. Al Nisan ve'al Tishrei, these 2 months. Okay, and now look at this. I skipped the line, but when the Beit HaMikdash was around, you would break Shabbat for all 12 months, Takanot Korban, because to make sure that you get the Korban Musaf correct. So, if the month of Kislev, Friday night, you see the new moon, go tell the courts in Yavne, or sorry, in Yerushalayim, go tell the court. Why? Because they're going to bring a Korban Musaf tomorrow. But once there was no more Korbanot anymore, Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai came and said, guys, we don't need to break Shabbat for you to come here. For what? For Nisan and Tishrei, you have to. Why? Because we have the holidays. We have, Nisan has the holiday of Pesach. Tishrei has the holidays of Yom Kippur, Sukkot. So fine, break Shabbat to get here. But otherwise, the other months, what are you coming for? What are you coming to tell me what day is the first day of Kislev? It doesn't matter. I'm going to scroll down. The Gemara will tell us exactly this, so you could see it in your own. You could see it. Here. When the Beit HaMikdash was around, they would break Shabbat for all months, so that they could get the Korban Musaf correct. Initially, they would break Shabbat for any month. If the witnesses saw the new moon on Friday night, they would travel, they would do whatever they had to do to get to the court. But once the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, Amar lahen Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said to them, guys, this was a daf Chaf Aleph. We already did this. You might have forgotten. But Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai got up and said, Korban, is there Korban? What are you breaking Shabbat for? Only for Nisan and Tishrei, break the Shabbat to come testify for the new moon. Okay? So this is what the Gemara says, 6 in this chapter, 1 from the prior chapter, and they just expected you to remember this. So let's add this to the list. How should I write this? You guys tell me.
You only break Shabbat for Nisan.
Okay. So
The witnesses of the new moon can only break Shabbat.
Nisan and Tishrei, not the yeah, exactly, not the other months anymore, okay, because no Korban. Good, we got through 7. Let's see, I hope in 20 minutes we could get through 8 and 9. Okay, hey, keep doing other pages.
So that one, the one you just listed about the new moon, bringing Shabbat, that was the one that was referring to from previous.
Yeah, here. So you know what? I'll add that. Here we'll write prior chapter. Or we'll just write Rosh Hashana 31b. Okay. Everything else is from this chapter. Now let's get to 8. You gotta these next 2, don't ask too many questions because it's like getting into different topics. But he made some Takanot. I'll explain. The Idach. What's number 8? What's the next one? Tana, we learned in the Braita. Ger shenit gayer bazman hazeh. If there is a convert to Judaism, a non-Jewish person decides to convert to become a Jew, sarich sheyafrish rova lechino. He has to bring a korban. Okay, you know what? Let's talk during the times of Beit HaMikdash. What are the things that a convert has to go through? You said them both. He has to do a brit milah, it's a circumcision. He has to go to mikveh, to immerse in the mikveh, and he has to bring. In times of Beit HaMikdash, he also has to bring a korban. there's a sacrifice of a korban that he has to bring. Inaugural korban in the Beit HaMikdash. Now there's no more Beit HaMikdash. Times of Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. There's no more Beit HaMikdash. What should we do? Mikveh, you can still do. Brit Milah, you can still do. What about the korban? We can't do anymore. So this is what would happen. Look, Sarich Shiafrish Rova Lekino. The Braita says, even though you can't bring the korban anymore, you need to take the money of the korban and put it aside. It's not much, but you need to take, I don't know, $20, take it out of your wallet, put it in an envelope, and say, this is for my korban. Whenever the Beit HaMikdash opens up, I'll take my money, designate it on the side. So that's what we would do initially. Amar Rabban Shimon ben Elazar. Rabban Shimon ben Elazar says, Kvar nimna alea Rabban Yochanan uvidla. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai and his court already voted and canceled this law. Ubitla means they rescinded this law, because there's going to be a potential mishap. You tell me, what could be a potential mishap of this? Yeah, this envelope here, that's $20 in this envelope, I'm not allowed to use for anything other than the korban. I've sanctified it. You know what that's setting yourself up to do for someone to take that $20 10 years down the line, 15 down to accidentally use it. They need some pocket change. Someone comes to the door. You got a pizzeria delivery, and the guy wants cash. What are you going to do? Send him back with his pizza? It's okay. Give it the korban. When the Beit HaMikdash comes, I'll pay for it anyway. It's a big problem. So Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said, I don't like this anymore. I don't like taking money, designating it, and put it to the side. When the Beit HaMikdash comes, the ger knows that he has to bring a korban. But don't take specific dollars and put it somewhere because it was causing issues. So that's number 8. Okay? So how would you write number 8? Help me. Okay? So a convert no longer sets aside cash for a korban. What? Quarter shekels. Yeah. I don't even say quarter shekels. You're looking at the English already. Look at you. Okay. Let's go. Ve'idach. What's number 9? We wouldn't have a good list if you didn't have at least one machloket in there. So here we go. We have a machloket for what's number 9. So it ends up being like you have really like 10, or at least the number 9 is a machloket. Ve'idach plukta de Rav Papa Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Number 9 on your list is a machloket between Rav Papa and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to say what Rav Papa's opinion is for number 9. Just for context, there was one rabbi, his name was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was the rabbi, you guys say, when was he in the position of being the head of the Supreme Court? When the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. And he was responsible for moving the Sanhedrin from Jerusalem to Yavne. It's on the coast, by the Yam. It's to the coast. So he was responsible, and he was also responsible for making sure the continuity of Am Yisrael after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So he adding new laws. He came up with 9 laws. We learned 5 of them in our chapter, right? 6 of them in our chapter, 7 from the first chapter, 8 we just learned how to do with korban. Now we're going to do number 9. Number 9, there's 2 opinions. Rav Papa, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Stay with me. We're going to go through them too, and then we're going to say why each one argues, why they argue, and they don't like the other one's answer. So we're going to say one answer, the other answer. How come you didn't like his answer? How come you didn't like his answer? And then we're done with Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's Takanot. Okay, so let's do it. We're going to do it. The Rav Papa, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. The last one was a machloket between Rav Papa and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Papa Amar. Answer number 1 is Rav Papa's answer. Kerem Revai. It has to do with fruits or grapes in this case, fruits of the grapevine of the 4th year. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Lashon Seori. And the other opinion says it has to do with the strip of red wool. We'll explain what each of these are. But let's go ahead and do this. Machloket. Rav Papa says what? Fruits of 4th year. And Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, right, what is that? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, what does he say? Yeah, string of red wool. We're going to explain what each of these are. Okay? So what does it mean, fruits of the 4th year? So there is a rule. We've spoken about this in the past. It's called neta revai, or fruits of the fourth year. This is where we get into the laws of Tu B'Shvat. When you take a tree and you plant the tree, for the first 3 years, the fruit of those trees is called orla. You're not allowed to touch it. So you get your favorite apple tree, you put it on the ground. For the first 3 years, you're not dipping this in any honey. You can't eat these fruits for the first 3 years. You get to the 4th year, it's called neta revai. It's the 4th year fruit. There's something very specific that has to happen with this fruit. Can anyone tell me? Not bikurim, but not maaseh. There you go. You said it. It has to be eaten in Jerusalem. Oof. Saying a law like this is like, ooh, I see where Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai would have to come in to come up with a new law. Because remember, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed and they're not in Jerusalem anymore. So the rule is the fruit of the 4th year has to be taken up and eaten to Yerushalayim. Now, let's say Baruch Hashem, you're swimming in cash. Or for more specifically, you're swimming in figs. You have tons of figs and dates and mangoes and you got everything in it, but you live out south. You can't carry this all the way to Jerusalem. What are you supposed to do? You redeem it. You take the fruit of the 4th year, you sell it, you take the money to Jerusalem and spend it in Jerusalem. This is called neta ravai or kerem ravai, grapes, fruits of the 4th year. Now, there is one extra takanot which I'll say, and then we'll say what Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai said. What would happen is, if you have the choice, let me ask you, Andy, you have the choice. You could either take fruit or take cash. What would you do? You take cash, right? Sell the fruit in your local market the way you would want to. Take the money, leave it on your phone and Venmo, and then go to Yerushalayim and start saying you take cash or credit. Why would anyone in the right mind take the fruit to Yerushalayim? It's heavy. So then you would have an issue that no one would take fruit to Yerushalayim, and then you would have all of these people coming to Yerushalayim to buy things, and there's nothing there. Everyone is coming to buy things, and if someone comes there, then you could trade, you could sell, you could do things with it in Yerushalayim. But here, everyone is coming, so it's a strain on the system. So what Chachamim said is, you know what, there's going to be a box around Yerushalayim, a radius. We're going to pick on the map. We're going to say, if you're within this radius, within 1 day's travel worth, if you could get here within 1 day, you're bringing your fruit. You don't have a choice. You are not allowed to redeem and bring cash if you're within the local area. Why? Someone has to bring fruit to the area. It has to be nice. You have to have fruit. You have to be able to, the markets have to be full. Otherwise, you're going to have a strain on the system. So what happens is, if you're within this 1 day radius of Yerushalayim, you have to bring fruits. Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai says, not anymore. Or we don't know. Rav Papa says that Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai came and abolished this law. The law was abolished eventually. Who abolished it? Machloket. Rav Papa says it was Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. He said, if you're within Yerushalayim, you can still do the cash thing. Why? Because what do we need to have fruits in the lands of Yerushalayim for when it's in enemy hands? The enemy, we don't need to care about making it beautiful and making sure there's so much there. It's a different world now. Let's go ahead and see the Gemara. Okay? These are different topics, but don't worry. Like we just have to just sort of get through them. We don't need to go too in depth. Rav Papa Amar Kerem Ravai. Kerem Ravai is the case where Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai made his last Takanot. The Tanya. Kerem Ravai haya ole Yerushalayim mahalach yom lechol tzad. Kerem Ravai, if you had it outside of Jerusalem, you would have to bring it to Jerusalem. Mahalach yom, a 1 day's journey lechol tzad in all directions. As I said, v'zohi techuma. This is the techum. These are the borders on the map. Elat minat tzafon. If you're going, actually, they change it to Darom. Elat is in the south. Elat minat Darom. Although some say Elat is not 1 day walk from Jerusalem. So this must be a different Elat. It must be somewhere. So this is not the same Elat that we have today. It's not a 1 day journey at all. By foot, it's not. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No, of course not. It's a tip. So it's not there. So Elat minat Darom, Elat in the south, Akravat minat Safon, Akravat in the north, Lod minat Ma'arav. Lod is by the airport, right? So how long is it from Yerushalayim to the airport? Maybe 40-minute drive. So you have a 40-minute drive in that direction. And Yarden minat Mizrach, the Jordan River on the east. So if you're within this area, you have to bring your fruit to Yerushalayim. Ve'amar Ula, and Ula said, Ve'itema Rabba bar Ula amar Rabbi Yochanan, or it was Rabbi Yochanan, Matam, why? Kidei le'ater shukei Yerushalayim v'perot. to adorn the markets of Jerusalem with fruit, as this decree ensures that there will always be an abundance of fruit in Jerusalem. You have people bringing fruit there so that other people have what to buy. Otherwise, you're going to have a situation where if everyone comes there to buy, the city of Jerusalem can't support for everyone. So you have people from outside, they're going to come. What are they going to do with all of this? They're going to sell some there, which they're allowed to. They eat some, they sell some, they exchange some, etc. They give it out. Tanya, we learned in a Braita further. Keren Rabbi Hayalo Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Eliezer, Baruch Hashem had a lot of money. Rabbi Eliezer, Shalom Hashem, we should all be like him one day. He had tons of cash. B'mizrach Lod, but he was in the east of Lod, which means he was within that radius. B'tzad Kfar Tevi. He lived next to Kfar Tevi. That's where he lived, that Kfar. Ubikesh Rabbi Eliezer lahafkir la'aniyim. And Rabbi Eliezer couldn't take it up to Yerushalayim. It was too much for him. So what did he want to do? He wanted to give it out to Aniyim. He wanted to say, hey, you need money, you need food. I'll give it to you under one condition. This is Kerem Ravai. It's fourth year fruit. Take it to Jerusalem and eat. If you're a poor person, what do you care? So you go for a journey there. You're going to get all of your thing. It's worth it for you. So that's what Rabbi Eliezer wanted to do. Amru lo tamidah. But then his students said to him, Rabbi, kvar nimnu chaverecha alav v'hitiruha. Your friends voted already and they permitted it. That you don't need to go there anymore. You don't need to go to Jerusalem. Meaning there was a court case. They got together and they decided that you no longer have to take your fruit if you're within this 1 day radius of Yerushalayim. Why? Because what do you need to la'ater shukei Yerushalayim to beautify the markets of Yerushalayim when Yerushalayim is sitting in ruins? You don't have to do it anymore. So since that was the case, your friends came and they sat together and they decided you no longer have to do it. Man chaverecha. So Rav Papa says, this is the end of the story. The student said, your friends did this. Man chaverecha, who are your friends? Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai and his court were the ones that said, you no longer have to take Kerem Ravai to Jerusalem. They still had to do the mitzvah of the Torah. They still had to exchange the money. And then if they want to take the money to Jerusalem and find something there, they still had to do that. But they weren't required to take the fruits there anymore. Okay? That was the Takanot, and Rav Papa says that was the Takanot of Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. Yes.
So then he can't just give it away to poor people.
He can. He still tell them.
Bring money.
He couldn't just give it to the Aniyim and tell them to stay here. He was going to give it to them and say on condition that you go. Now what they're telling him is you don't have to give it away. You could sell it and then take the money and go, or take the money and give it to poor people and tell them to go. But you're not required to take these specific fruits. Beforehand, you had to take these specific fruits to Jerusalem because you're in the red zone. Now you don't have to. So fruits of the fourth year that are within 1 day's journey of Jerusalem no longer are required to be taken to Jerusalem. You can exchange it for money. Okay, that's the opinion of Rav Papa. Let's do the thing of Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. There's a red string. Okay, there was a miracle that would occur in the Beit HaMikdash. On Yom Kippur, I'm going to just give you the background so we could run through it. On Yom Kippur, there was 2 goats that were brought as korbanot. Seir echad la'Hashem, seir echad la'Azazel. One would be brought as a offering in the Beit HaMikdash. One would be taken to a mountain and would be offered there, basically. So this is what Chachamim explain. We're going to see it right now, that they used to take a red string and tie it to the Beit HaMikdash on the outside so people could see this. And when this person takes the Korban Azazel, takes that goat, and offers it in the mountain, and goes and takes care of it, then this red string would turn white if Hashem accepted their tefillot. It's a miracle. The red string would turn white, almost like their red blood becomes innocent and clean. They would put it on the outside. The problem is, this is what everyone was looking at. Everyone was looking at the scoreboard. On Yom Kippur, you should be praying, you should be fasting, you should be doing teshuvah, you should be giving tzedakah, you should be thinking about all. Oh, what's everyone doing? They're going to the Beit HaMikdash looking at the scoreboard. Are we living this year or not? And then you would have a problem. If it would become white, everyone would say, yeah, we're fine. They wouldn't think about doing teshuvah. If it became red, everyone would say, we're dead. You might as well enjoy the year while it lasts. This is going to be our last year. Knowing the score of the game before the game is over, which is what this string was really, it's going to tell them whether they're going to win or not, would make it not worth playing. Either you're going to live through the year or you're not, and you find out beforehand. So if you're going to live through the year, then there's no reason to do better. If you're not going to make it through the year, then there's no reason to do better. This is what was happening. So they took the string, and Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai eventually decided to abolish this. The problem with that is it was only done during the time of the Beit HaMikdash. Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai was the rabbi after the Beit HaMikdash. So this must have been his takanot that he done during the times of the Beit HaMikdash. That's what we're going to end up saying now in a very fun way. Okay, let's see it. And there's one very fun Gemara toward the end. Okay, share screen. Boom. Let's go. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar. What was Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said? Lashon shel zehorit. The red wool string. The Tanya, we learned the Baraita. Barishona, initially, ayu koshrin lashon shel zehorit al petach ulam mibachutz. They used to tie a red string on the entranceway of the Beit HaMikdash on the outside, so everyone could see it like a flag. Hilbin hayu smechin. If it turned white, they would become happy. Lo hilbin hayu etzevim. If it was not white, they would be sad. But this is the way commentators explain is, and then these both would have some sort of a negative effect, or maybe one of them would. Itkinu sheyu koshrin oto al petach ulam mibifnim. So they decided, you know what? Don't put the string on the outside of the Beit HaMikdash. Put it on the inside of the Beit HaMikdash. So they just like moved it inside. It's like instead of putting it outside, they put it on the inside. What's the problem? Very fuzul. We found our ways of going inside, sending in a drone, something. We were able to find out one way. All of a sudden, you have the guy, some way or another, finding out what was going on. They would still peek and see. If it turned white, they were happy. If not, they weren't. All you needed is one guy to see it, and everyone would find out. So they decided, let's take it and let's cut it in half. They would take half the string and they would tie it to a rock by the spot of the Azazel where the goat would be taken to. And the other one, they would tie between the horns of the goats. So they would take the goat, the guy would take it in half, put part of it on the horns of the goat, part of it on the rock. Why? Different time. But that's what they would do. Half here, half there. Okay, so they decided, you know what? We don't want this in the public eye anymore. Go put it over there. Someone made that takana. Who was it? According to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, it was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Okay? So now we're going to say why each one didn't say like the other one. Rav Nachman, okay, so let me just write this down, because then we want to just say it. String of red wool. What does string of red wool mean? Was moved from the Beit HaMikdash entrance to the mountain. Okay? You good? Mountain and the goat.
What does this have to do with the fourth fruits?
It doesn't.
There's
machloket as what the ninth edict is.
Oh.
Rav Papa says it has to do with the fruits. Rav Nachman says it has to do with the string. They're opposites. They're different opinions.
That's why I got confused. This is the ninth thing for fruits.
Yeah, this is a 9 according to someone else. Okay, so it's a machloket. Good. Let's see it. First, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, my time lo amar Rav Papa. Why didn't Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak say like Rav Papa? Rav Papa gave you the answer of the fourth year fruits. What didn't he like about that? He said, I'll tell you what I didn't like about it. Amar Lacha. He says it all has to do with one word. There was one word in the story that I didn't like, or that made me that I don't think it's Rabban Yochanan. What was it? Amar Lacha. He would say to you, if it was actually Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, was he his Rabbi Elazar's friend? Do you remember what the student said? The student say, "Hey Rabbi, why are you giving away your fruit for free? You don't have to take this to Jerusalem. Your friends already voted and they said you don't have to do this anymore." Bring your friends. Rabbi Elazar was a student of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Your friend. It's like if you tell me your friend Rabbi Yadeo ben Chaim, my friend. I'm flattered to be in that category, but we haven't sat together and chilled recently. Actually, on Purim, I went to his house. It was really nice. He gave me a thing of wine. He saw my son. He's like, oh, Blandini, my son is blonde. So we had a fun time. He's like, why don't you sit? We sat. It was very nice to go visit Rabban Chaim on Purim Day. But still, I'm a student. He's not my friend. So when you're saying how the students of Rabbi Eliezer said, your friend already abolished this. Who's his friend? Rabban Yochanan Zakkai is not his friend, he's his rabbi. So that's why Rabbi Nachman says it can't be those fruits of those fourth year, because the way the story happened, Rabbi Eliezer's students told him that your friend got rid of this. His friend is not Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, so that can't be his ninth edict. So Chaverav Rabbi Eliezer Miava, was he his friend? Rabbo Hava, he was his rabbi. V'idach, Rav Papa has an answer for you. Kevan that Talmidim Habu, it was the students talking to him. So since it was the students talking to him, Lav orach ara lememra le lerabe rabach. It would be disrespectful for the students to say to the rabbi that your rabbi did this. Instead, they were speaking respectful to the rabbi. And what were they saying? They were saying, your friend already permitted it. Now, it wasn't his friend, it was his rabbi, but it's their rabbi. It would be like, for example, if I wanted to tell Rabban Chaim something that Rabbi Yosef said, Rabbi Yosef is his rabbi, but what am I going to say? Like, Rabbi, how can you say that your teacher says something else? For me, it's disrespectful to tell Rabban Chaim that his teacher is saying that. It's disrespectful on my part. So from me, I'm going to say your colleague said this. Now, is he actually his colleague? No, he always says, Rabbi Yosef is my rabbi. We would never argue with him. But from my perspective as the student, I want to be respectful. So I'm going to say something that maybe isn't exactly honest, but it's a respectful way of me saying it's your colleague. It's me putting him up as opposed to saying that you're actually friends. So this is the back and forth. Because we know in the story, the way it was recorded, they told him, your friends did it. Now the question is, were the students literally saying your friends? That can't be Rabban Yochanan Zakkai. Or were they just saying in a respectful way, in which case it can be. That's the machloket about what Rav Papa says. Now let's go to the other one. Rav Papa, okay, so now you got it. This answer of the fourth year fruits, Rav Papa says it, even though they call Rabban Yochanan Zakkai, they call him Rabbi Eliezer's friend, he's okay with that. Because it wasn't actually his friend, it was just a respectful way of saying you're rabbi. Now, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said the whole thing that has to do with the string of the red wool. Why didn't Rav Papa like his answer? Rav Papa, my tamalo amak Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Why didn't Rav Papa say like Rav Nachman? Amar lecha, he'll say to you, Isal gadaitach Rabban Yochanan Zakkai. If you're going to tell me it's Rabban Yochanan Zakkai who did it, the timeline doesn't work out. Bimei Rabban Yochanan Zakkai, mi hava lashon shel zehorit. Did they even have that string occurring the times of Rabban Yochanan Zakkai during the times of Beit HaMikdash? There's two problems. There's really a problem. Rabban Yochanan Zakkai is after the Beit HaMikdash. But even if you want to say, well, he existed beforehand, there was another problem. The Atanya, we learned in the Braita, Kol shenotav shel Rabban Yochanan Zakkai, me'av esrim shana. All of Rabban Yochanan Zakkai's life was 120 years old. Okay? Arba'im shana, for 40 years, asak beprakmatya. He was involved with business. Oh, wow, we're learning something new about Rabban Yochanan Zakkai. For 40 years, he was a businessman. Real estate, diamonds, I don't know. Maybe he had some sort of a clothing store. For 40 years, he was involved with business. Arba'im shana, the next 40 years, lamad. He started to learn Torah. They always say Rabbi Akiva didn't learn for 40 years. Now you're seeing it's true. The Rabban Yochanan Zakkai, the first 40 years, he wasn't in the yeshiva. How old are you guys? I'm less than 40. Can you imagine at age 32, learning more than right now? I don't know. It could be that he was predominantly involved with business, but he was still, there's Gemarot about how tremendous of a Gaon Rabban Yochanan Zakkai was. It's hard to believe he didn't learn anything. It could just be, but that wasn't his main thing. He had a job. He would learn on the side, but he had a job. Once he became 40 years old, he left the job and he started doing only learning. Arba'im shana, the final 40 years of his life, meaning from age 80 to 120, limed. Now he started to teach Torah, which means he was in that position of the leadership position. So what we're saying is for the final 40 years of his life is when he was in that Sanhedrin position. Okay, that's when he was in the Sanhedrin, not in the first 40, not in the middle 40, in the final 40. So he was the Nasi of the Sanhedrin after age 80. V'tanyan, we learned in a Braita, we're trying to put a timeline together. Arba'im shana, for 40 years, Kodem shenechrav habayit, before the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed, meaning the final 40 years of the Beit HaMikdash, lo haya lashon shel zoharit malbin ela ma'adim. The red wool would never turn white. So for the final 40 years of the Beit HaMikdash, you never had the string turning white. It was just red. It just didn't work anymore. So there was no people looking, becoming happy, becoming sad. The way the Gemara said is that if it was white, they'd be happy. If it was red, they'd be sad. So this wasn't happening the last 40 years of the Beit HaMikdash. It wasn't happening. So let's try to put the timeline together. Utnan, and we learned on the Mishnah, Mishacharav habayit, itkin Rabban Yochanan Zakkai. Rabban Yochanan Zakkai did all of his takanot after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. So that means he was in his position of making takanot after age 80. But for 40 years prior, there was no red string. There was no Beit HaMikdash. This wasn't occurring in the Beit HaMikdash. We know that so that the timeline, you get what the timeline is. If the timeline is as follows. If the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed in his last 80 years, give me a number. How old do you think he was? The last 80 years. Pick a number. 90. Okay, 90 is a fine number. So that means from age 90 and on is when he made all of these takanot. Wow. So from age 90, he's making all of these takanot. But what that means is, from 40 years prior, none of this red wool stuff would happen. So using this math, that means none of this red string takana would even be applicable from age 50. Okay, so that means, can it be that Rabban Yochanan Zakkai made a takana that we're not going to show this red string anymore because it's bothering people? He would be younger than 50 years old, but he's not in that position yet. He's not in the position of being in the Supreme Court if he's 50 years old. You get it? If he was only in the position of being in the Supreme Court for 40 years, and we know that during those 40 years is the time that the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, and for the final 40 years when the Beit HaMikdash was around, this red string wouldn't have been a takana because nothing was changing. And that means the earliest possible was when he was learning, not when he was teaching. So let's see what the Gemara says. V'idach otam 40 shana d'lamad. So I'll tell you what Rav Nachman will respond. Those 40 years when he was learning Torah, meaning from ages 40 to 80. So like in your example, when he was 50 years old, Talmid Yoshev Lifnei Rabbo Hava. You're right, he was a student. And he was only learning. And he wasn't the head of the Supreme Court. However, the Amar Milta, Istabar Ta'ameh, but he came up with this idea, and his rabbis agreed, the Kab'eh Rabbe Bishmeh, and the rabbis made this enactment based on the advice of this student. So if your issue with this answer of the red wool is, but he wasn't the head of the Supreme Court, the timeline doesn't work out. He wasn't, all of these other takanot was when he was the supreme head of the Supreme Court. This one, the timeline doesn't work out. You could say, you're right. This one he did not as the Nasi of the Sanhedrin, not as the president. He did this as a student, giving a suggestion, and it was accepted, and it was established by whoever was in charge then. So that would be his contribution as a student. Okay, so then looking at the list, last thing. We're just looking at the list. So we have these two things. This is the opinion of Rav Papa, and this is the opinion of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Why did Rav Papa not like Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak's answer? Because Rabban Yochanan Zakkai wasn't the Nasi of the Sanhedrin when this happened. Now, he might say, I'm okay with that. Okay, he was a student, fine. But Rav Papa doesn't like it, because all of the rest of this list, he was the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. Now, number 9 is not, so Rav Papa doesn't like it. Flip, Rav Papa says it has to do with the fruit. Rav Nachman doesn't like that because of the way the story was said. It was your friends came and abolished this law. Rabban Yochanan Zakkai wasn't his friend. Rav Papa would respond, I know, it was just saying it in a respectful way. So with that, we have the 9 takanot. Just one concluding message that I'd like to share is this idea that Rabban Yochanan Zakkai was, for the first 40 years of his life, was involved in business. Being involved in business is something that's important. You have to make a parnasah for yourself. You have to build for yourself, for your family, for the people around you. Be'ezrat Hashem, to be able to have healthy children and good health, to provide for the family, to provide for the kids, to build, to give charity. Something that you have to do. You have to work your tail off to work very hard. But ultimately, doing that is going to prevent someone from becoming the Rabban Yochanan Zakkai position. So at some point, I really wish I could interview Rabban Yochanan Zakkai and just ask him, like, how did you decide to give up 40 years of your career You were involved with a career for 40 years. At age 40, you decide to. Maybe he just became rich and now he could do it.
Producing assets.
Oh yeah, exactly. He invested in some. He invested in GameStop or something, and then he was able to sold crypto at the top, and then that's it. Ready to well, it's very interesting about how exactly he did it. Probably invested in real estate, something like that. But the question is like, what decision did he make at age 40? And then at age 80, he became the leader of Am Yisrael. Really tremendous. Really, it's such a tremendous story. So a person should know that it's never too late to do anything. Here you are, Baruch Hashem, whatever stage you are, you're studying Torah, you're coming to Bet Knesset, you're part of it. Even if everything isn't perfect, you have a one-up on Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. Maybe not financially, maybe he had the real estate, but maybe even from that side, whatever it is, it's a tremendous. To me, it's an inspiration. When I saw this, I see it's never too late. You never give up hope for someone. You had someone who only started when he was 40 years old and he became the leader of Am Yisrael. Isn't that like a tremendous, amazing story? I would love to meet this character. Next time, we're done with Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. We've spent so much time with him. There's one famous story that I haven't shared yet that Be'ezrat Hashem I would like to share at some point. It's a very short Gemara. It's not so short. It's a short Gemara about the character of Rabban Yochanan and Zakkai. Hopefully next time we'll do that. And then we're moving on. Guess what we're moving on to next? New topic. Completely new topic. The Musaf prayer on Rosh Hashana. Completely new topic. This is something completely new. The Musaf prayer on Rosh Hashana is like the longest prayer. There's shofar, there's different psukim. We're going to now start getting into that. The last couple pages, we have just turned to 32a. Amid Bet Amud Aleph. We turn to the top of Amid Bet Amud Aleph. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more pages, not even. 3.5 more pages. The rest of it is about the Musaf prayer and the shofarot. So we're almost there, and the ideas of Rosh Hashana. Be'ezrat Hashem, hopefully in good health, we'll learn it together, and then we got to start thinking about the next Masechah. Be'ezrat Hashem, that'll be coming soon. Okay, Zakkai, everyone.
Good night, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye.